Okay, let's take a look at n factorial. Today you're going to be doing homework off of page 447 and 444, 443 I should say. So let's take a look at this. First off, just real quick, don't forget n factorial is, if we were taking a look, say a number, say like 5 factorial, right? So 5 factorial is 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, okay? So let's take a look at n factorial. N factorial, we're going to start, if this is 5, and we got n now, we're going to start with n, right? And if you take a look at it, the next number is 1 less than 5. So if I have an n, 1 less than n would be n minus 1 times, we have 1 less than the 4, so we're going to have 1 less than n minus 1, which would be n minus 2. And then the next one would be 1 less than 3, which would be 2. So 1 less than n minus 2 would be n minus 3. So if we just keep going, it constantly becomes 1 less, right? And I don't know what n was, so we can just keep going on and on and on forever with this, okay? So let's suppose, once again, we have, say, like 10 factorial, right? So 10 factorial would be 10 times 9 times 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4, then so forth and so on, all right? So this n factorial, it just keeps going down by 1 each time we keep going, all right? Another thing I want to make mention to you is that 5 factorial, we said was 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, but you can also write 5 factorial as 5 times all of this right here. You could represent that as 4 factorial, right? Because 4 factorial is 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. We could look at 5 factorial again, and we could say 5 factorial is 5 times 4, and then we could pick up with the 3. 3 times 2 times 1, which that would be 3 factorial. So that's another way that you can deal with factorials as well, okay? So you may have, say, like the number 13 factorial. Well, 13 factorial is the same thing as 13 times 12 factorial, okay? So those are just some things I want you guys to kind of keep in mind when we go into solving some of this other stuff. So let's take a look at this slide. This comes from page 444, number 14 of your homework that they're going to ask you to do. And they want you to solve for p, right? What would p have to be so that we have 8 factorial divided by p is the same thing as 6 factorials? What would that be, right? So let's kind of look at this. 8 factorial, 8 factorial, and actually we may take, let's take and put this over 1. Let's do this. So let's do 8 factorial equals, and then let's just cross multiply here. This will be 6 factorial times p. Let's do that, okay? And we're going to solve for p. So let's divide both sides by 6 factorial, and let's see what we get. Okay, so 8 factorial is 8. We'll just write it out. 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. 6 factorial is 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So look at this. All of this cancels out. So we're left with 8 times 7, right? Which is 56, right? Honestly, if we think about it back here, 8 factorial divided by 8 times 7, right? Does that equal 6 factorial? Does that? Well, 8 factorial is 8 times 7 times, look at that, 6 factorial, right? And I have 8 times 7 here, so look at that. Yeah, it does cancel. So we have that p is 8 times 7. So we could say 8 times 7. We could say that p is 56 if we want to. All right? So that's pretty cool. All right, let's take a look at this guy. This is on page 447, example 3. Let's turn there and see what that looks like. So they want us to solve for n. This guy looks really scary, right? So let's take a look at this side right here. This is n factorial divided by n minus 5 factorial, right? So let's do that. Equals, this is 7. This is n factorial divided by n minus 4 factorial. Okay. All right, so a couple ways we can look at this is, first off, n factorial is n times n minus 1 times n minus 2 times n minus 3 times n minus 5, or 4 times n minus 5, right? So n minus 3 times n minus 4 times n minus 5. And then we can just keep going, right? N minus 6, blah, blah, blah. Down here, n minus 5 factorial is n minus 5 times n minus 6. So if you start to notice, this part right here is canceling off with all this stuff here that's going on up here, right? So this would be like n minus 7. Up here would be n minus 7. So this all cancels off. So on this side right here, we have this guy, right? So this is, we have n minus 1 times n minus 2 times n minus 3 times n minus 4 equals, and then on this side right here, let's look at this. This is 7 times n factorial is n minus 1, n minus 2, n minus 3, n minus 4, n minus 5, n minus 6, n minus 7, all over. We got n minus 4, n minus 5, n minus 6, n minus 7, right? So what happens is these are all going to cancel off. So on the top here, we're going to have n times n minus 1 times n minus 2 times n minus 3. Does that make sense? Because this goes n minus 4, n minus 5. This guy's going to keep going, so this is going to end up canceling off. So we're going to have 7 times n minus 1 times n minus 2 times n minus 3 on this side. Okay, so now if you take a look at it, this cancels, this cancels, this cancels, and looky here, we have n minus 4 equals 7. So guess what? We're going to add 4 to both sides, right? So we'll get n is equal to 11. So that's one way, excuse me, of looking at that. Okay, let's look at it another way. So let's take and clone the page. Excuse me. We're going to take and erase all of this stuff. So we're going to have n factorial divided by n minus 5 factorial. This equals 7 times n factorial divided by n minus 4 factorial. All right, let's see if we can't make life a little bit more easier than the one before, right? So let's cross multiply. Let's do that. So we're going to have n factorial times n minus 4 factorial equals 7n factorial times n minus 5 factorial. Okay, so what can we divide off? Check this out. This goes, this goes. So now I'm left with n minus 4 factorial, right? N minus 4 factorial is the same thing as n minus 4 times n minus 5 times n minus 6 times, and we're just going to keep going, right? Equals, this is 7 times n minus 5 factorial. It's the same thing as n minus 5, n minus 6 times n minus 7. So do you see where this and this is matching up? So these cancel, cancel, cancels, right? So now we're left with, get rid of this stuff here. So now we're left with n minus 4 equals 7. So n equals 11. And then right back here, guys, seriously, back here, all of this stuff right here, this is n minus 4 times n minus 5 factorial. That's what that means, right? Okay. So that n minus 5 and this n minus 5 factorial are going to cancel off, and you'll have your n minus 4 equals 7. All right? Okay, so let's go through one more time. Let's look at that again. So let me get rid of this, because I know this takes a little bit to figure this out. So let's go through it. So you're going to have n factorial divided by n minus 5 factorial equals 7 times n factorial over n minus 4 factorial. Okay, we're going to cross multiply n factorial times n minus 4 equals 7n factorial times n minus 5 factorial. Okay, so let's do this. So now n factorial. N minus 4 factorial is the same as n minus 4. So you can write this down, times n minus 5 factorial. And this equals 7n factorial times n minus 5 factorial. Right, so that's what I talked about earlier. So what's really nice is that we have that this and this cancels. We have that n minus 5 factorial, n minus 5 factorial cancels, and we're left with n minus 4 equals 7. Add 4 to both sides, so we get n is 11. Okay, so that's how you want to do your homework. That's what you want to do for homework problems. It is this guy right here, number 11. You're going to start that off with n factorial over n minus 3 factorial equals 5 times n factorial over n minus 2 factorial. Okay, and then you're going to finish it. You want to finish it with these steps right here. I think this will be your easiest thing to do right here. So finish it off with that. Okay, so write that out for me, and let's see what we can do, guys.